Ah, glaciers. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You gotta catch 'em while you can. This episode is my final stretch to Chile, a good excuse to visit the stunning Torres del Paine National Park before yet another border halt back to Argentina, then on to the tourist hub of El Calafate and the vast white theatre of the Perito Moreno Glacier. Torres del Paine is the main event today. Located about 112 km north of Puerto Natales, it's long graced my personal bucket list, a surprisingly uncircular inventory of places I want to see before my knees finally give out. As for Puerto Natales itself, it seems pleasant enough, not exactly heaving with the energy of a gold rush town, but undeniably touristy. The silver lining is the food, a significant step up from recent experiences, but the cloud is hotel prices, which suggests the local hoteliers may have used room rates at the Ritz as their baseline to go by. Leaving town, the road begins to tease the mountains ahead. The relentless flatness of the previous few days is replaced by scenery that actually demands your attention, and it appears the local authorities have been busy converting tourist pesos into quality tarmac. Welcome, of course, but something I still find slightly out of character for South America. Like established in 1959 to protect a generous slab of the Patagonian icefield, Torres del Paine is arguably Chile's most famous national park. It's a land of granite peaks, azure lakes, and enough glaciers to keep the world's climate scientists in a state of perpetual anxiety. As for the name itself, it's something of a cultural mixtape. Torres from the Spanish for towers, and Paine from the indigenous Tehuelche word for blue. Thus we have Blue Towers, which sounds a bit like a mid-range retirement home in Florida, but the reality is considerably more scenic. The pavement ends with a jolt, a physical reminder that even the most enthusiastic tourist tax has its limits. From here on, the park roads are mostly unpaved. Dust becomes a recurring motif, both as a visual aesthetic and a literal seasoning for everything from clothing to one's lunch. No matter how I frame this picture, no matter I've opted for the southern entrance to the park, a route that adds a few Ks but allows me to loop through the rideable sites, and the pre-park scenery puts on a convincing performance by way of compensation. No matter how I call this progress, no matter how I change the lines, I'd rather have you right here closer, I'd rather have you in my mind. No matter how I frame this picture, no matter how I change the lines, I'd rather have you right here closer, I'd rather have you in my mind. No matter how I call this progress, no matter how I change the line. Back on gravel, this gradient is steeper than it looks. GoPros have the miraculous ability to flatten everything, landscape and difficulty alike, and also do an excellent job of concealing the bone-rattling corrugations. Top, and the sun seems to have chosen this exact moment to clock off. It's a classic piece of Patagonian timing. The views arrive just as the lighting department goes on strike, but even under a sulk of cloud, it's still impressive. A river and a jagged horizon mark the park's southern boundary. There's also a visitor centre, a term which in English means a shed where they take your money, so I stopped to secure the necessary paperwork. With my dues paid, I venture onto the main loop road. Ahead lies the Paine Massif, featuring the eponymous towers and their jagged neighbours, the Cuernos del Paine, or Horns of Paine. In English, the name suggests some kind of particularly nasty medical condition, but in person, they're quite majestic. Despite its fame, the park doesn't feel overly busy. This is a relief, as every passing vehicle kicks up a plume of dust thick enough to hide a small battalion of infantry. A pleasant if dusty ride brings me to my first stop, Salto Grande. Despite the name, it isn't especially grand, in the grand scheme of things, but offers a welcome respite from the corrugations and a good excuse to take in the views. It's also where the tour buses congregate, which is usually a sign that it's time to leave. The park's more intimate secrets require hiking or camping, activities that don't always sit comfortably with motorcycles, and specifically motorcycle gear. Today, therefore, is about a tasting menu approach, riding the loop and hoping for the best. The eastern gate arrives sooner than expected. Given the gloom, the dust, and the feeling that the last 3 discs in my spine have been rearranged by the road surface, I'm ready to retreat. Puerto Natales is still 115 k's away, so the riding day is far from over. The views of the Paine Massif are distracting in my mirrors, but for the driver coming towards me, they appear to be utterly hypnotic. That corner carving is closer than it looks, so I can't help but vent some frustration. Outside the park boundaries, the scenery loses some of its theatrical flair, as if the landscape can't be bothered to perform without a ticket. Still, the return of smooth pavement and fast curves is a balm for the soul, and my back.
Sitting on the roof
If there's one constant in South America, it's roadworks. They're as inevitable as taxes and slightly more frequent than rain. To be fair, these half-finished roads are in better condition than the finished ones back in the park. And it's not too long before I get to take advantage of the fruits of all this labour. Technically, we're in summer, but judging by the enthusiastic flowers and the general air of gloom, you might be forgiven for thinking a less reliable season was in play. Welcome to Patagonia. The roundabout, complete with a 4-metre Mylodon statue, a kind of prehistoric sloth, welcomes me back to town. And I can't help but wonder what the sloth would have made of the local dogs, who seem to view any visitor as a personal affront. Day 91. After a glorious rest day spent contemplating the fleeting nature of comfort, it's time to ride on. Today's destination is El Calafate, a tourist town on the shores of Lake Argentino, which, as the name hints, is in Argentina. And that means another border crossing, followed by my first encounter with the legendary Ruta 40 road. For all its tourist trappings, Puerto Natales has been a pleasant place to stay. As I reflect on that, I'm forced to slow down for an oversized load, and then notice the real problem. A relaxed approach to route planning has left these guys scratching their heads about how to negotiate the overhead cables that clearly can't be trimmed or bulldozed. No! And further down the road, a policeman directing traffic might as well be flagging further aerial hazards. But good luck to them all. Today, the plan is to cross into Argentina at the Rio Don Guillermo border, which requires a bit of backtracking from yesterday's ride. No complaints from me though, the pavement is good and the scenery obliging. The Chilean exit is about 60 k's away at Cerro Castillo, a settlement so small you could miss it if you blinked at the wrong moment. As I arrive at the border, the sun finally emerges, but it's brought its boisterous friend, the wind. It doesn't translate well to film, but the sheer force of it is a firm reminder that regular Patagonian service has resumed. The border post is quite busy, but the paperwork is dispatched with the usual bureaucratic shrug, and the exit formalities are painless. That is, assuming someone eventually opens the gate to let me out. The 8 k's of no man's land between border posts is made delightful by the massive tailwind. Going the other way, however, would be an entirely different experience, as the expressions on a few riders I passed earlier made abundantly clear. Keeping with tradition, the precise border is marked by a sudden decline in road quality. It's only a few more k's to the Argentine post, but they're going to be bumpy ones. Argentinian dogs seem more charitably disposed toward foreigners than their Chilean counterparts. And after another smooth process, I'm back on the gravel for the final 6Ks to Ruta 40 and a return to pavement. The KTM's 21-inch front wheel makes short work of this surface, though some tourists in two-wheel drive cars appear less convinced. But there is admittedly a certain satisfaction in sailing past. Arriving at Ruta 40, you could be forgiven for wondering what all the fuss is about. It frequently appears on lists of the world's greatest adventure roads, but a highway that runs nearly 5,200 kilometres is bound to include a few less shouty moments. Still, it's good to be finally on it, and there's plenty more to come. But my first encounter is brief. Ruta 40 takes an unscenic detour east that I have no interest in, so I'm opting for the shortcut of Ruta 7. It saves 83 Ks at the modest cost of a few bumps. Correction, a lot of bumps. The GoPro, ever the optimist, makes it look like not much more than a bowling green, but in reality this is one of the more violent massages I've received from a road on this trip so far.
After the sun comes the rain, the rain. After the fall comes the pain, the pain. I'm on a sea of trouble, love, and my horizons are all blue. I'm on a bed of nails, love, and I'm laying there.
After confirming that I still have all my teeth, I rejoin Ruta 40. The final 93 Ks to El Calafate are all paved and reassuringly scenic. El Calafate announces itself with a substantial checkpoint, though as usual, two wheels earn a friendly wave through. Despite its picturesque location, the town exists primarily as base camp for the Perito Moreno Glacier, about 75 Ks down the road. But that's for tomorrow. For now, a hotel and respite from wind and vibrations will do nicely.
Calling on the city of love, calling on the city of love. I don't wanna wait at all, I don't wanna wait at all. Calling on the city of love, calling on the city of love. I don't wanna break off all, I don't wanna break at
Day 92, and I'm hoping the mostly pleasant weather will hold as I point the bike westward along the shores of Rio Argentino towards the Los Glaciares National Park, as whose name suggests is home to many glaciers, including Perito Moreno. again, tourist money has ensured decent road conditions, particularly by rural Argentinian standards, so the landscape rolls by pleasantly until I reach the park entrance. Just like their international cousins, national park borders come with their own formalities, which in this case are mainly satisfied by cash. Appropriately ticketed up, at foreigner prices of course, I set off on the remaining 27 k's of curves to the Perito Moreno viewpoint. As I get closer, the weather seems to dial up the moodiness. It does kind of suit the area, so long as I'm going to be able to actually see the glacier.
Hola. English.
Being directed right is mildly irritating, as it leaves me in the lower car park with either a hike or a bus ride to the viewing platforms. I briefly considered just going left, as it would undoubtedly be fine to park a bike up there, but ultimately decide to submit to the authority on this occasion. As it turns out, the lower car park offers decent views of the lake, and of course a predictable gaggle of tourist selfies. Higher up, the walkways remind me of Iguazu Falls, only if someone had turned the temperature down by about 30 degrees, and there is of course plenty of space for a bike in the upper car park, but anyway. Named after the explorer Francisco Moreno, this glacier is one of the few on Earth that is both massive and easily accessible. It's also remained puzzlingly stable while its piers are melting like cheap ice cream. Even so, it's begun to retreat lately, so as I said, gotta catch 'em while you can. With poor light and little else to see that doesn't involve hiking, something I'm disinclined to attempt in motorcycle gear, it's time to head back to El Calafate. Money has only paid for one road, so I return the way I came. As the mountains fade, the gloom lifts, and the ride back promises to be pleasant enough. I'll spend one more day in El Calafate catching up on a few things, before rejoining Ruta 40 and continuing north the following day. travel, the Argentinian Navy, big sky, blue water, really blue water, checkpoint waves, canyons, and Patagonian landscapes.